Peace and blessings. I am Brandi L. Bates, and tonight we are talking about Teflon Work Ethic. Teflon Work Ethic. Starting now, right now, this second, this minute, this hour, this day, this week, today, now, this moment. Do your best work. Don't wait until next week. Don't wait until Monday morning. Don't wait until hard times hit. Start right now, today, this second, this minute, this hour, to do your best work. I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts tonight about work ethic. I was asked to talk about this because I always talk about Beyonce's work ethic. I always refer to her because she's such a popular pop icon that we see, and she's known worldwide. And before her there was Michael Jackson, and there's so many others. She isn't the only one, but she stands out not only because of her ability to dance and her ability to perform and pack out a stadium and sell concert tickets and albums, but it's her work ethic that stands out for me. And I'm going to talk about some of the concepts behind having that type of Teflon work ethic and why it's so important for you to at least strive for that, or at least hunger to have a Teflon work ethic, especially if you are not okay with shit just being the way it is. If you're not okay with average. I'm speaking to those souls who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The people who are tired of struggling and having to work for somebody else, and tired and sick and just fed up of mediocrity and not being known for who you truly are and what you're capable of. And I would say you have to show the world what you're capable of. Ask Gary Vaynerchuk. He says, you didn't grow up driving, you figured it out. None of us came into this world knowing how to drive a car. You weren't born knowing how to cook or how to wash dishes. You weren't born knowing how to do anything. You learned everything that you know now. You learned it. And just the way you learned how to drive, you learned how to cook, you learned how to wash your ass, you can learn how to hustle. You can learn how to have a Teflon work ethic. It doesn't matter what your background dictates. It does not matter how humble your beginnings. You can learn to have a Teflon work ethic. And I say, do it at all costs, because your life depends on it. Your sanity depends on it. Your future depends on it. Your future children and your future children's children depend on it. The world depends on it. The world is waiting for you to make your mark and to leave your legacy. And you can't do that without a Teflon work ethic. You have to stay flexible and adaptable, because life is always going to throw curveballs. That's the nature of life. The nature of life is to throw curveballs. It may come in the form of the economy tanking. It may come in the form of hard times, sickness, divorce, relationships falling apart. It doesn't matter what it looks like or what form it manifests in, but things are always going to be happening to you and around you and in your world that affect your well-being and your happiness and your finances. So you have to stay flexible and adaptable. Because guess what? The tree that doesn't flow with the wind, and when the wind is blowing east, if that tree doesn't bend east, or when the wind is blowing west and that tree doesn't bend west, that tree is going to snap. That tree is going to break. That tree is going to die. So see, it's imperative. It's crucial. Honestly, really, it's crucial to stay flexible and adaptable. It's necessary. It's so necessary. Do you hear what I'm saying to you today? It is imperative that you get this message. And if you don't see it now and it's not serious to you now, as you get older and you see the way the game is played and the way life happens to people and how some people happen to life, you'll understand more clearly what I'm talking about and what I'm driving at. You have to work like hell. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? You have to work like hell. That's the foundation of having a Teflon work ethic. I was blessed enough to grow up in a household where I had a mother who taught me how to go get it. You know, she didn't believe in sitting around and waiting for a man to take care of you, or waiting for a government check, or waiting for somebody to, lace you and help bless you. No. She taught me and instilled me to get up off your ass and get up and go get what you want to have. If you want to have a nice home, you got to get up and go earn it and work for the money to pay for it. If you want to drive a nice car, you have to get up and go work and earn it. If you want to dress to the nines, to where you just step in a room and people notice you because you have impeccable taste, you have to earn it. And that costs. But even more important than that, it was the work ethic that I saw. Whether it was, raining, whether it was hot, cold, earthquakes, whether it was, I don't have a car, the car broke down, no matter what, she showed up. And that instilled something in me. Even if you're sick, you still show up. You make up the time. You take off a day, you say, you know what? I'll make up the time. I'll either make up the time at home, or I'll come in on Saturday, or I'll come in an hour early. And guess what? If you have a full-time job, and I'm going to get to the reasoning behind this, the philosophy behind this in just a second. But if you have a job, okay, and I don't care what you do. I don't care what your form of employment is. You can work at Jack in the Box, or you can be a journalist for the Washington Post, or you can work right there on Wall Street. I don't care what you do. It does not matter. But the point is, if you have a job, you have to show up earlier than anybody else. You have to create systems and ways of doing things to make your life and those who you work for or work with, the team that you work in conjunction with, to make everyone's life easier and more efficient. And I can almost guarantee you, the person that you will become in that process is going to create within you a Teflon work ethic. Do you hear what I'm saying to you today? I need to instill this. I need to really drive this home. You're not doing this because you're brown nosing or you want to stroke the ego of the man who sits behind the man who signs the checks. But it's because you're trying to create within yourself a Teflon work ethic. And that comes with certain habits and traits. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. There are certain things that all people at the top, there's certain things that they do that no one else does. And that's why they're at the top. Okay? So that means you have to work 80 to 100 hour work weeks. And I'm going to go even further to say that not only do you need to be putting in the time and the energy and the effort at your regular job, but anyone who knows me knows that I am a advocate of the hustler lifestyle, meaning having a full-time job, having a side hustle, having your own business. You know, if your business or your craft or whatever your service is that you provide, that you're good at, if that's not paying all your bills, then you should have a full-time job and your side hustle to help supplement so that you're not a starving artist. I don't believe in that starving artist shit. I don't buy into it. I think that it is a fallacy at best. It's a lie out of the pit of hell, because there's no reason why you should be a starving artist in this day and age where you have social media, you have things like Etsy, you have things like Craigslist, you have things like all these different avenues to sell your services and your products, and you know, big cartel, online, free online avenues to sell your gifts and your products and your talents and your craft to the world. And now you don't just have to try to sell to your little small community or your little state or your country even. You can sell and promote your services and your gifts and talents to the world. So there's no reason why you should be struggling and broke, except for a lack of a work ethic. As long as you have a Teflon work ethic, you will never be broke. Now, you may not be, you know, on Bill Gates level, you know, Steve Jobs level, Warren Buffett level, but you will not be broke. You will not starve, if that makes any sense. So you have to be working 82. You can give the man 40 hours of your time. If you can give the man your job 40 hours a week, then you damn sure better be giving yourself at least 80. And that means working nights and weekends and Sundays and holidays and vacations, and even on days like Christmas and vacations, you're still putting in a little bit of effort. And you're not doing it because, oh my goodness, I have to do this. You're doing it because you're laying the groundwork and you're not breaking the cycle that comes with that Teflon work ethic. You're doing it because it makes you feel good to do it, because it derives happiness and a sensation of pleasure when you're hustling. Elon Musk, the founder of so many, he's like the modern day Einstein, modern day, you know, Tesla. But the founder of Tesla, the automobile, Elon Musk, he says, if others are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you put in 100-hour work weeks, you do in 4 months what they do in a year. Let that settle in. Let that marinate for a second. A moment of silence for that truth. If others are putting in 40-hour work weeks, that's what most people do. That's the bare minimum. That's the average. That's what the average man and woman is just doing just to survive. That's our level playing field. It's 40 hours a week. And you're putting in 100 hours. They're going to create a body of work in a year that you will do in 4 months, which means that you will double, triple, and quadruple your productivity. And in that process, you're getting better, you're getting faster, you're getting stronger, you're getting wiser, you're learning tricks of the trade, you're learning shortcuts, you're learning easier ways to what the market will dictate, what the market won't dictate. You'll learn so many little nuances and things about your craft. Okay? So that means if you are a music producer You need to be in the studio day and night. And you have to crush it like pink cookies in a plastic bag getting crushed by buildings. You guys don't even, y'all don't even know what that is, but you have to crush it. You have to crush it. Whatever your thing is. I know Girl Scouts who can outsell some of you salesmen. You call yourself a salesman, and there are Girl Scouts who can sell more units and move more boxes of cookies than you do because they're out there just showing up. That's half the battle. Showing up. Your passion for your art and your craft, it has to be what drives you and fuels you. It can't be the money. Now here's the thing, the money will come. The money may not come immediately. In fact, the money may not come for a while. But if you maintain and develop the principles of a Teflon work ethic, the money will come. I promise you. It always does. You can look at the lives of any prolific just warrior when it comes to any workaholics. And I'm not talking about, please understand, I'm not talking about, just work really hard for your company, for your job, and give them 30 or 40 years of your life and fuck everything else in your world. No, I'm not saying that at all. You still have to find time for your family. You still have to find time for your children or your spouse. You still have to find time, downtime, to relax and breathe and meditate and exercise and eat good, healthy, wholesome food and things of that nature. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times we have way more downtime than that we don't take advantage of and can be utilized to put in work. Okay? And really, it doesn't have to be, grueling all day, all night thing if you're doing it in a systematic way, in a smart way. So in other words, not so much work hard, but work smart. Create systems to work smart. In other words, so case in point, I do many things, but I am a writer first and foremost. I am a writer who happens to have, a family. I am a writer who happens to be an entrepreneur. I am a writer who happens to offer services and things to others, but I'm a writer first and foremost. And I may not, there are times when I may write all day for 8 or 9 hours. And then there are times where I may only write for 1 hour, but in that hour, I'm so focused and absorbed in it that I'm laying it down in the best I can. And I can honestly, from experience, say to you, I wasn't always this way. It developed. It was something that I had to develop. I had to develop the discipline to sit my ass down, first of all, in spite of everything that's going on around me and people wanting to party and people wanting me to come out and do this and do that and go out to dinner and hang out and watch movies and, and chill and kick it and Netflix and chill and all of this. And I had to develop the discipline to say no, because all that chilling and hanging out and all that's wonderful. But guess what? It's always going to be there. But my inspiration and the momentum to do the things that I would love to do is not always going to be there. That's another thing. When you have the momentum to do something, you have to do it. Do it, strike while the iron is hot. Don't wait until the irons are cold, because then you know that's how you run into ruts and you have writer's block and things like that, or similar situations where you basically are blocked. Nothing is coming out because you waited until the iron was cold, or you didn't continue with your momentum. But your passion for your art and your craft is what has to be the main driving force. People need to know you for the fact that you're vibrating at genius level work ethic. Now here's the thing. Genius can be developed. You know, no one was born a genius. Even Albert Einstein was not born a genius. Mozart was not born a genius. John Coltrane taught himself how to read music. Miles Davis was not born a genius. Beyonce was not developed in one day. She developed her work ethic over time. She just happened to start a lot younger than most people, but it developed. So you develop that vibrational frequency of genius level one day at a time, starting today. And eventually you will walk into that Teflon work ethic vibration. You have to be known for your professionalism. When we say, you know, going pro or professional, what does it take? What are the marks of a professional? I say part of it is the fact that they keep it classy. And that goes beyond, you know, because there's some divas out there. Let's be real. And divas come in male and female form. But there's some divas out there, and there's some people that are just complete jerks. But the real pros keep it classy. They're respectful. Meaning they always display grace under pressure. They always keep a cool head. You have to always keep a cool head no matter what. You can never allow anyone to knock you off your square. No matter what. You never allow anyone to knock you off your square. The moment you allow them to get you so hot-headed that you are acting an ass, or as we say, you're acting a donkey, and you're showing your ass, and you're cussing, and you're ready to fight, and you're angry, and you're showing them this, you've lost. They've won. They've won. And no matter how angry you may get, or how despondent or how disgusted you may be over anything that may happen on a day-to-day, because guess what? Every day isn't going to be all roses and butterflies and unicorns. There are going to be rainy days. There are going to be gloomy days. There are going to be cold, ugly days when the phone doesn't ring and you get critiqued and you get bad press, and there are going to be those days. But you have to stay classy. And you have to remain poised. That's the mark of a professional. It comes with who they are. Consistency. Every damn day. Consistency. Sun Ra. Many of you don't know who this gentleman is. But Sun Ra, out of Philadelphia back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, the composer and band leader, jazz composer. This man produced over 100 plus full-length albums with over 1,000 songs in his discography between 1956 to 1993. This man was the definition of prolific. You look up prolific in the dictionary, there should be a picture of Sun Ra. He was in deep off into the occult, the esoteric, and he applied that to his music. Many of you, if you are familiar with Earth, Wind, and Fire, rest in peace, Maurice White. But if you are familiar with Earth, Wind, and Fire, a lot of their albums dealt with the occult and dealt with esoteric, a lot of the artwork on their albums, even Miles Davis to an extent. Their album covers would depict, pyramids. George Clinton is another one. Pyramids and the mothership, and Pleiades and the Syrians, and things just deep off into the occult that your regular person didn't know. But the beautiful thing about that was they were so original and gifted in the fact that they didn't have the same, bebop band that everybody else during that day was doing. Smokey Robinson and the Temptations, and these guys who were just putting on a suit. They still created bomb banging music, but the way they expressed themselves was so unique and different at a time. But Sun Ra was so prolific, and although he's not as popular and known as Miles Davis and John Coltrane and Thelonious Monk and some of the others, his music and the legacy he left will always live on. And you cannot erase a man or a woman's work ethic. So that's why I say to you tonight, if you have a Teflon work ethic and people know you for how much work you put in, they can never take that away from you. So consistency. Show up every damn day. Be prolific. Always be closing. If you are a real estate agent, you need to always be closing the deal. If you are a car salesman, you need to always be closing the deal. If you are committed to creating a masterpiece of your body, you need to always be in the gym. If you call yourself a poet or a writer and you want to write a book, don't go look at blogs on how to be a great writer or listen to somebody talk for hours on end about how to be a great writer. Just always be writing. Eventually, you will learn. Always be reading. No matter what your craft or your practice, always be reading. And read the books everyone else is sleeping on. Yeah, read what people recommend you to read. And I have always tried to recommend great books. Seth Godin's Lynchpin, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Richard Branson's autobiography, 25 Ways to Win by John C. Maxwell, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. But read other things. Read things that people don't talk about, because that's going to give you inspiration and insights on things people are not aware of. Always be in the lab. Always be in the studio. If you call yourself a music producer or a recording artist and you're rarely in the studio, I don't care how much studio time costs. Create a studio in your bathroom and always be recording. Even if you're a popular YouTube icon on YouTube, always be recording and producing videos, what have you. Always be producing. Always be productive. That's how you become prolific. That is the mark of Teflon work ethic, is to always be producing. Always be in the studio. Always be in the lab. Always be reading. Always be writing. Always be in the gym. Always be running. Always be working out. Always be closing. That is how you become prolific. Find ways to better yourself. There's always something to do. You know, when people say things like, well, I'm bored, it's boring. It's boring. No, it's not boring. You're boring. There's always something to do. Only people who don't value time say shit like that. It's never boring. You're boring. There's always something to read. There's always something to learn. There's always something to research or to study. There are always ways you can improve yourself. Even if you can't get to the gym because you're snowed in, you can do push-ups and sit-ups and Pilates and burpees, and you can run in place and you can jump rope and you can get your workout in right there in your home. Always. Work like hell. You have to be dedicated to this thing. You have to be addicted to your grind. You have to be addicted to it. Has to get you off. Your grind, your hustle has to get you off. It has to. Or else you won't have what it takes to keep going when life happens to you, or when things come up against you and knock you down. You won't have what it takes to stand back up because you're not dedicated enough. You've got to be dedicated to this. Lukewarm water never boils. You can't cook anything with lukewarm water. You can't produce heat or steam with lukewarm water. You got to be all in. All in. You have to keep at it and not be all over the place. Be focused. Because if I'm trying to chop down a tree, no matter how big a tree is, it can be chopped down. It can come down. But the only way it can come down is you keep drilling and axing in that one same spot till you get through. But if you're hitting here, then, 6 weeks later, you hit there, and 2 weeks later, you hit down there, and over here, it's never coming down. You're just putting nicks at it. You're just throwing nicks at it. But if you're focused every day for a few hours, and you keep hitting in that same spot, eventually, that tree is going to come tumbling down. Don't stop and don't half-ass. A lot of us, and in the past, I'm guilty of it. I can honestly say to you, I am guilty of half-assing on some shit in the past. Because you get tired, There have been times where, you may come home and you're just exhausted. Ladies, I know you can relate. When it's that time of the month, sometimes you're not feeling it. You're not feeling it, and you're not feeling people, and you just want to be unbothered and left alone. And those days, you just say, oh, fuck it, whatever. I'll just, kick my feet up, relax, watch some mindless, brainless TV. But you really can't ever have days like that when it comes to your craft, or when it comes to if you're building a business, or if you're trying to write a book, or you're trying to produce an album, or if you are trying to maintain a certain level of customer service. You can't have those days where you half-ass, because that'll be the day that you lose your one big break. Or that'll be the day when the person who has a really huge following on Twitter or a YouTube or Instagram, they put in a comment about how bad your service is, and now that bad rep, because you were having one bad day, and we all are entitled to bad days, but you don't ever want that to stain or blemish your reputation, because your reputation precedes you. It's so funny. A lot of people say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. Well, you should if you're trying to build something, because your reputation will precede you. So before someone ever even meets you, and if they're hearing negative things about you and you have negative press, that's gonna somewhat color how people come to you, because they're coming to you with a preconceived idea of who you are. And that's if they decide to still, fool with you after hearing the negative press. So you want to keep your reputation kind of blemish free. And you do that by checking those half-ass days and leaving it at the door. If you're having family problems, leave it at home with family. Don't bring that into your craft and your work, because it has nothing to do with the people outside of your family. So you shouldn't take it out on them, and vice versa. Don't bring the shit from work home and project that onto your children or your mother or your sister or your dad. It's not fair to them. They didn't have anything to do with it. Determination. Obstacles are going to be there, and they may slow your roll, but never allow them to stop you. Never allow an obstacle to stop you. It may knock you down, it may slow you down, but it is never to stop you. And that all depends on what you're made of. And that's why I use the example Teflon, because Teflon can withstand fire and heat and cold and rain and storm and you name it. And that's kind of how you have to be deep down in your soul, in your spirit. You have to be Teflon. You have to be resilient as Teflon. Know your personal brand and stay true to your guiding principles. Always remember why you started this in the first place. So when you have those days when you feel like throwing in the towel and just saying, you know what, to hell with all this, I don't want to deal with it anymore, I'll just go back to work, I'll just go back to school, I'll just marry some money, I'll just marry a rich person and not have to deal with this. That's not always going to be a reality. Have a high pain threshold. You have to have a high pain threshold, because it's going to hurt some days. Some days are going to hurt. And you can learn a lot from heartless people. You can learn a lot from heartless people. We all know people like that who are just, they don't let things faze them. They're heartless. They don't allow people to hurt their feelings, or, they don't allow someone with road rage to disrupt their peace. Now, call it what you may. They may be selfish, they may be self-centered, what have you. But these people don't allow anyone to ruffle their feathers or get under their skin. And you can learn a lot about that trait. Not allowing things to matter so much to you. Unless it affects your livelihood, your well-being, your children, your family, your finances, your health and well-being, then it can be dealt with. If you allow every little thing that fluctuates to grab your attention and to take away your focus, you won't get anything done. You'll be lukewarm. And again, lukewarm water never produces any steam. It never boils. It never goes anywhere. There will be people who throw shade sometimes. And that's okay. You have to learn how to separate the constructive criticism from the hate. Now, sometimes even haters can benefit you, because sometimes it's what needs to be said. Your friends know what the problem is sometimes. People who are close to you, they can almost always pinpoint when something can be made better, but a lot of times they won't say anything because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So in their effort to spare your feelings, they're actually holding you back. But that hater is going to actually do you a favor, because they're going to call you out and point out all the shit that's wrong with you and what you got going. Now, it doesn't mean that they're right 100% of the time, but if you take heed to that and use it as constructive criticism to say, okay, well, I'll tweak this here and I'll make this better there, and I will, level up on my customer service here. Whatever everyone is complaining about, it pays off to pay attention to that so that you can be better in your craft. So seek constructive criticism. It's as valuable as diamonds, as gold. Don't let it hurt your feelings. Use it as a constructive tool, because it's how you get better. Now, what separates the man or the woman with Teflon work ethic and everyone else? And I would say it's this. It's how they handle being knocked down. It's how they handle stress, family matters. They don't mix business and family and drama and pleasure. They keep it classy. Resilience. They are almost made of steel. What makes you see someone and say, gosh, how does she do it all? How does he do it all? How do they do it? They're resilient. They're Teflon. The Teflon endures. Endurance. Accountability. Strive to increase the gulf between what you do and what others do. In other words, you want to make yourself the person who can do what no one else can do. Because in this society, in this matrix system that we live in, we're paid according to the value that we provide to the world. So if you only do things that anybody else off Joe Schmo off the block can do, then you'll be paid on an average level. Anybody can rake leaves up. Anybody can sweep a sidewalk. Anybody can bag groceries. Anybody can pick up a phone and transfer that call to another person. But it's the rare individual who does rare things, right? And as they say, rare air. The individual who is breathing rare air and doing rare things gets paid that rare money. That top 10% in whatever your craft or your calling or your industry, whatever it is, the 10%, the top 10%, the top tier, the best of the best of the best of the best, the creme de la creme. What do they do different? And 99% of what they're doing is what no one else either can do or is willing to put in the work to do. Then others are not willing to earn it. Now, I'm not saying everything that they're doing is right, but they're doing some shit that other people are not willing to do. Okay? You have to do the work even when nobody is looking. You can't just try to do stuff to be seen. Well, look at me. It's so funny. People post things on social media, I'm hustling, I'm doing this and I'm doing, that's fine. If you need your ego stroked or what have you, but you got to be willing to put in the work when no one is looking, no one is paying attention to your social media, your Facebook page or your Twitter or your what have you. You just, because people who are really diligent in their craft, they really don't have time to sit up and be on social media all damn day. Now, believe it or not, I tweet a lot, but I'm working as I tweet 99.9% of the time. If you see a tweet from me, from @SoledadFrancis, I'm working while I'm tweeting. Because the nature of the work I do is performed sitting in front of a computer or a laptop or a tablet or what have you. So, I may take a moment to fire off some tweets or respond to people, but make no mistake about it, I'm hustling, I'm working. I'm never just chilling, laid up with my feet up and tweeting and not also doing something that is income producing. Because for me, I actually enjoy doing income producing activities more than activities that don't produce any income. Now that's just me. You don't have to be like me, but that's just me. You have to rise early. You have to read the books that, as I said before, everyone else is sleeping on. You have to. I like to read old esoteric books, old books that they're not even in print anymore, or they've removed them from circulation for whatever reason. That's the stuff I like to get my hands on because it usually contains original thought. A lot of times what you see on the bestsellers list is rehashed ideas that somebody has gotten from somebody else that has gotten from somebody else, and they're just saying it a different kind of way. I hate to say that, but a lot of times that's what it is. And so I don't seek out things that are designed for pop appeal. I am seeking things for wisdom and knowledge and information that I can't Google. I'm always trying to get my hands on information that I cannot Google. But it's so crucial that you do this because you have to almost hustle like an immigrant. Immigrants come to this country with nothing. And because they're not from this country, a lot of times they don't take for granted the rights and privileges and things that we take for granted. And so rarely will you ever meet an immigrant who comes to this country as an employee and remains an employee. They either come to this country and start their own business, or they start as an employee and become entrepreneurs and, end up as entrepreneurs. And even our ancestors, to an extent, they realized the importance of entrepreneurship, coming out of slavery and coming out of the civil war era, coming out of even as early and far back as the 20s, coming out of the Great Depression. You had a lot of people who realized the importance of not depending on the dollar and not depending on the economy and the system per se, but depending on their own work ethic to feed themselves. Okay, so this whole notion of, everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur, I don't buy into that either. That's a fallacy too. Everyone was designed to be an entrepreneur because everyone was born to find a way to feed themselves. Animals in nature don't work for someone. Animals in nature, they wake up, they go get the food, they feed their young, and then they rest. Every animal in nature, everything in nature was designed to be self-sufficient. So you can't sit up and tell me that people were not designed to be self-sufficient, that everybody was, some people were designed to be entrepreneurs and go-getters, and some people were designed to be employees for the rest of their lives. I don't buy it. I refuse to believe that. That is a limiting, self-defeating, defeatist attitude, and I reject it. You have to hustle like you're running from poverty, from sickness, from brokenness, because you are. Because I'm going to tell you guys something. Let me tell you something. It's about to get really real out here. And the economy is about to go in such a way where if you don't find ways to have multiple sources of income outside of a job, you are going to go through hard times. So you have to have a well-developed work ethic that can never be erased. And there's always a tool and a blueprint for that. You have to have that Tupac work ethic. The poet, the actor, the artist, Tupac Shakur. During his lifetime, he was said to be constantly recording because he knew he would die young. He said it. He knew he was going to die young. So he made it his business to always be producing and recording and acting and putting out tons and tons and tons of material. Look at Tim Tebow and Gordon Ramsay, Ryan Seacrest, As I mentioned before, Beyonce, Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, although he's retiring, look at his work ethic at the height of his career. Steven Spielberg, Michael Jordan, Joan Rivers before she passed away, Tom Cruise, how many movies he plugs out, a year. Work is the other 4-letter word that distinguishes us. It's how most people define themselves, by what they do. Now, I don't always agree with that, but most people define themselves by what they do. I'm a construction worker. I'm a nurse. I'm a waitress. I'm a restaurateur. That's how they define themselves. Work is the 4-letter word that most people use to distinguish themselves, what line of work they do. And we judge each other based off the line of work that we do. And we judge each other by our work ethic as well. So you have to strive to earn your spot in the top 10% of whatever your craft is. Because that's where the outliers live. Out on the edge. Not in the middle, out on the edge. And that's where that Arab, Carlos Slim Helou, Warren Buffett money is. Where the outliers live, in the top 10% of your craft, of your industry. You have to take responsibility. Don't blame anyone else for shit. You don't blame the man. You don't blame society. You don't blame the economy or your upbringing or anything of that matter. Because that's always going to be there. Yes, there's always going to be racism. There's always going to be discrimination. There are always going to be economic upturns and downturns and recessions and depressions and what have you. But you cannot allow that to dictate your earning power and your ability to go get what you want in this life. It should never dictate how you earn or what you earn. Your work ethic determines that. I mean, imagine the alternative. What is the alternative to having a Teflon work ethic? I'll tell you what the alternative is. It's working for someone else for the rest of your life until you're sick or too weak to do anything else. And then at which point you get on Social Security or some other form of social welfare to provide for you and take care of you, meaning that you have to live on a fixed income. And that means, you're not going to be able to travel and do the things you want to be. You are in a virtual plantation. You're in a virtual form of slavery until you're able to eclipse this reality, meaning you've worked and developed such a work ethic that even if they take away everything that you have at this moment, you can go get it back again. They could drop you in the Sahara Desert and you'll be able to perform and hustle and eat. You have to be the best. You have to push yourself to the limit. 7 days a week, every damn day, no days off. Because the competition and evolution is not letting up. So you have to refuse to be outworked. Because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. What you don't do, someone else will do. And they're going to get paid for it. You're not. Befriend the hustlers. Other people with a Teflon work ethic. Hang around them. Hang out with them. When you can hang out and be working together. But start a company. Everyone was designed to be self-sufficient. Start a company. This is a must. Because as I mentioned before, this economy is about to get really, really real out here. And I say this to you because I love you and I care about you and I don't want to see anyone struggle. But it's about to get really, 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 really cold and hard and scary out here. And so you must have multiple sources of income. You must have ways of getting paid outside of your job. Take the risks while you can. Because it's tough to do it once you have obligations like kids and a car note and a mortgage. So if you're young and you're not married and you don't have children, see the world while you can and hustle like hell and put in the work and put in the time. Peace and love. Teflon work ethic. Let's get it in 2016.